Hello, everybody, and I am so pleased to see you all. Today's last topic in the European Vegan Summit is food, passion, and family, and we examine the integration of vegan principles into food and family life, discussing lifestyle changes and social impact of this. And we have a lovely panel discussion ahead of us with five amazing people. And maybe I can first introduce myself as I'm the panel host for today's last discussion. So my name is Benjamin Pitkänen, and I am based in Helsinki, Finland, and I am the co-founder and executive director of Viral Vegans, a Finnish animal rights organization. And we have soon been operating for 3 years, and we're still quite a small team of three people, but making a big impact in Finland. And our main focus is progressing animal rights through veganism, and we are especially focusing on vegan education, plant-based policies, and content creation. So we are quite a young team, and we're full of energy, and it's so lovely to be here. And without further ado, I would love that all of our panel discussion people would introduce themselves for the last discussion. So I would love to give the floor to Federica Boddi from Vegan Butcher. Go ahead.
Yes. Good evening or good morning, everybody. I am Federica Boddi. I'm the co-founder and managing partners of the Vegan Butcher's Choice, a company founded in April 2019, Brussels-based. We started off as an artisanal producer of plant-based meat and cheese products to then evolve, as we will have the chance to discuss. And we are now also a quite well-known plant-based caterer in Brussels, but more generally for the whole of Belgium.
Thanks for the great introduction. And next we have Professor Andrew Knight, who is especially focused on sustainable pet food. The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. I'm originally from Perth, Western Australia, where I helped launch the Australian campaign against the live sheep export trade. Perth is the world capital for the trade. I did that 25 to 30 years ago. I then went to veterinary school because I thought it would help me become a more effective animal advocate and specialised knowledge and qualifications about animal issues. I did all sorts of campaigns on various areas after graduation and before graduation. I worked as a small animal vet treating dogs and cats for nearly a decade, mostly around London. Became a veterinary professor of animal welfare affiliated with 3 universities. And most recently, I've just done a PhD on vegan pet food. So I'll be talking about that tonight.
Okay, thanks so much for your introduction. And next online, we have Will One, then Tweel from those vegan Cowboys. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a biotechnologist. Worked a long time at DSM, the specialty and biotech company in the Netherlands. Now DSM Firmenich. And nowadays I'm the CTO, CEO of those vegan Cowboys. And you can see that from the hat in my back. And those vegan Cowboys, they were founded in 2020 by the founders of the Vegetarian Butcher. And the Vegetarian Butcher was a company that was established some time ago, focusing on meat alternatives, and that was sold in 2018 to Unilever. And Unilever is bringing those meat alternatives now to the much broader market. And the founders used the money they got by selling the Vegetarian Butcher, and they used that for starting a new initiative not focus on meat, but focus on dairy. And we, as those vegan cowboys, we focus on the microbial production of animal-free casein and using that for making cheese. And nowadays we are a company of about 30 people working out of Belgium. Let me leave it
So
there.
much.
Yeah.
Yes, amazing. And then we have Heidi Røneid from Oslo Vegetarfestival.
Hello, I'm Heidi Røneid. I'm the co-founder of Oslo Vegetarfestival, which is a vegan festival in Oslo, in Norway. It's the biggest vegan event and vegetarian event in the whole of Scandinavia. It's been a great success. And we also help other festivals, like music festivals, sell more plant-based food and reduce the amount of meat that they sell.
Thanks so much for your introduction. And last but not least, we have Dinshah from the American Vegan Society. The floor is yours.
Hi. In 1957, my dad, Jay Dinshah, toured a slaughterhouse and he saw cows get slaughtered. So he devoted his life to working till all the slaughterhouses are closed. Unfortunately, he internalized the suffering of billions of animals and he died in 2000. But I've got the chance to carry on his legacy, currently working at American Vegan Society as the vice president. And I'm excited to see all of the people that are working in the movement these days because it's really growing. Exciting.
Okay, so now we can. Oh, somebody. Okay, good. So now we can move to the discussion part. And the first question is devoted to Federica. So we would love to hear that. What were the beginnings of your vegan business and projects? Where did the idea come from, and what was your motivation? You put the mic on.
I'm sorry. Well, luckily I didn't talk too long. So the beginning for us were quite atypical because I talk about us since we are two co-founders. So of course, let's say the business came with the synergies of two different people. Me, I have a background in, classic corporate career. So I moved to Brussels from Italy and I studied economics, so I've always been fascinated in the mechanism that, kind of build any sort of business independently from the field and the subject. I was never really particularly passionate by what I was doing in terms of, the subject, but more how did the company work, how did you manage to coordinate the work of several people, and to be successful? And in just a bit before, like 2019, I met Benoit, so the other founder of the Vegan Butcher. He has a background in animal rights. So at the time, he was campaign coordinator for an important animal rights organization in Belgium. So his background was very different from mine. But as me, he felt it was the moment for a career switch. He felt that he gave his contribution to the animal rights world by showing, the cruelty behind animal products and animal exploitation. And he felt he wanted to, to still contribute to that, but by showing people what was next. So once you are aware of what's behind, a slaughterhouse doors, for instance, what can you do to change? And we think it's very important to first change habits of people before you start talking about ideals. Or better, I think there is not really one rule fits all. I think it really depends from the people. But what is true is that when you showcase certain images, so certain footages of animal cruelty, some people are quite shocked on the moment, but then they turn their head away and they just keep eating what they eat and keep doing what they do. So he felt that he wanted to, to bring something else to the table. And he said, what better way than, creating some tasty and new plant-based food, something, in higher, better quality than what was currently on the market, more nutritious, like cleaner in terms of ingredients. And yeah, we kind of combined our skills and our ideas. I was, of course, and I'm, of course, a vegan and an ethical vegan. So for me, that was also very important, building my own business, but doing it in something I truly believe in. And that's how the vegan butcher was born, but atypical coming to the beginning because none of us had any professional training nor experience in cooking and in, you know, creating food. So it was a lot of trial and errors at the beginning, but eventually it worked. It all came together, and now we are a team of 6 people. So, of course, there is still a long way, but we are very excited for how things developed. And for sure, we were inspired by some companies, especially in outside Europe, like the Herbivorous Butcher is a bit of a similar concept. So a plant-based but still artisanal quality vegan butcher shop in the United States.
Thanks so much, and lovely to hear your inspiring story behind your business, and great that you have expanded your team. And of course, I'm sure that everybody listening here wishes you all the luck with your journey to change our food system. So yeah, great to hear. And next we have a question for Anne, and the question goes that, Anne, you have been vegan already for 54 years. That's quite a long time. So what has been, as you look at the scene, so what has been your favorite advancement in the growing of importance of vegan business and commodities when you look at this long perspective? So yeah, would love to hear.
When we talk about food history, it's important to realize that I grew up learning from my mom, Freya Dinshah, how to make things out of legumes. So we made soy milk, we made hummus, we made cheese, burgers, everything we made because you couldn't buy it in the stores back then. She actually wrote the first vegan cookbook in the United States, The Vegan Kitchen. So I was really fortunate to grow up as a very well-fed vegan child. Most people think that veganism really kind of started when they went vegan. So there are a lot of people who are like, hey, Gardein, Daiya, Beyond Meat. Well, this came along in the 2000s. Yeah, they were amazing innovators. They still are. And they got their products into the regular aisles in the stores. Whereas previously, you really had to go to the health food stores or to some special aisle to get things. But let me take you a little further back. Silk soy milk was in cartons that looked like dairy cartons. They got into a dairy case in 1996. Tofurky debuted their holiday roast in 1995. Tofutti wasn't really trying to be a vegan ice cream. They were actually for the kosher market, but they were accidentally vegan. I remember in 1981 when they came out and how life-changing it was to actually be able to celebrate on the weekends with a sundae or something that we made. Follow Your Heart launched Vegetarfestival, a mayonnaise product, in 1977 because they had a cafe and their vegan mayo supplier turned out to be fraudulent and it wasn't really vegan mayo. So they had to make their own. But lastly, I want you to really tip your hat to Loma Linda. They were the Seventh-day Adventists and they're still going strong today. They began with soy and wheat, making meat analogs in 1933. They became really popular in the health food stores. I remember in the 70s and 80s eating it as kids. And just to show you if you're not familiar, they still exist today, making an amazing product. So everybody thinks that they're the first to do something, but we all stand on someone else's shoulders. So I'm excited for all the new businesses that are out here today, and I'm looking forward to hearing more what they have to say. But always remember the history, that everybody works from the basis of somebody else's work. Thank you.
So amazing to hear. And yeah, I guess for some people, this Loma Linda might be a familiar place. So this is a place in the US that has the highest amount of people living long lives and part of the reason that the researchers have found that there is a high proportion of vegetarians and vegans in this region. So lovely to hear, and thanks for opening the history of vegan products. I think many of us found that really useful, that Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods weren't the first vegan products out in the market. So yeah, there is a long history going back, and great that you had a awesome vegan childhood. And yeah, I guess next we move to Andrew, and we have a question dedicated to him. And I think this pet food market has the potential to change the history on how pets are being fed. And I think it also plays a big role on what is the future for animal farming. So not so long ago, it was thought that it was impossible to produce animal food without zoonotic products. So what does your industry look like now, and what direction do you think that it will develop? And of course, the industry that we are talking is pet food market. And are you already seeing that you are already starting to compete with the animal-based foods in the pet food market?
I think it's a super exciting industry to be looking at the moment. About 2 years ago, I would have a new startup company coming to me for a summary of the research in this field around about every 3 months. That's happening about every 2 or 3 weeks today. So there's been this explosion of new startup companies producing new vegan pet food brands, which is really exciting. We're also starting to see major pet food companies get into this space for the first time. In the UK, in the last month, one of the small startup companies, which was doing very well, was bought up by a major brand. And that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see the big companies start offering vegan diets, because they have much bigger distribution networks and marketing budgets, and can take this to the next level. So we've just seen that happen for the first time in the United Kingdom. We've also had a range of organisations update their policies. So the British Veterinary Association, after being long opposed to vegan diets for pets, came out actually in support of vegan diets for dogs around about 2 months ago as well. We've similarly had the UK Pet Food Manufacturers Association do likewise about a year ago, and we've had a major UK animal charity also do the same, hopefully more to come in the future. So I think it's a super exciting area to be involved in. The stage at the moment is mostly vegan products, but there are other products as well. There are cell-based meat products coming onto the market, and fermented meat, whereby yeast are engineered to produce animal proteins without actually needing animals directly. So those are also alternatives to traditional animal-based pet foods. But by far the most developed at the moment are the vegan pet food products. The others are at a very infantile stage of development at the moment, but they will come in the future. That's kind of exciting, because there have been a couple of large-scale surveys of pet owners indicating what proportion would realistically be interested in choosing alternatives to meat-based pet foods, and what alternatives would they be interested in. And the top alternatives chosen are really cell-based meat alternatives. The trouble is these barely exist at this stage. The second choice, however, was vegan and vegetarian pet foods, and these are becoming widely abundant in some areas, and it's still difficult to source in other areas, but there's a lot of interest in this area. The vegan dog food market is currently growing at about 7% per annum globally, which is pretty fast, and it was already worth $14 billion last year. It's expected to almost double in the next 10 years. So that's faster than the rest of the pet food sector. And I think it indicates the high level of interest in this area, as people are increasingly concerned about the environmental impacts of meat-based diets for themselves and for their cats and dogs, and wanting good health outcomes for cats and dogs as well. We know that providing diets are well formulated to be nutritionally sound, you can actually get better health outcomes sometimes with vegan diets. So yeah, it's a really exciting field to be involved in at the moment.
Yes, thanks for the recap on everything that is happening on the field. And I think for many people, this is kind of a new area of interest, and great to see that the industry is growing. And I think, yeah, we have to also put our eyes to the pet industry to find solutions to not be so heavily based on animal agriculture as it is now. And of course, the ideal goal is to replace also animals in the pet food industry, like in all other industries as we are talking here. So the next question is for Federica again. And so many vegan food companies have gone out of business in the last few years, and many are in big financial troubles. So how have you managed to survive the time of COVID, hyperinflation, rising raw materials prices, and other costs? And what in your strategy has worked and what has failed? If you can open a bit, how has it been with you during these pretty hard times, I would say?
Okay. Well, yeah, for sure. I think when you have a company, no matter how big or small, there is a lot of failing involved. And I think one of the hardest thing for us at the time has been also to reckon that something that has worked until then, like, couldn't work in the future. And this, I think, it's something we have to be open to in any phase of a company. You know, right now also, as I said, we have a company which works and is growing quite constantly, but we are always ready to the fact that things can change either because of trends, you know, food, like any other sector, also knows trends and like just changes in the consumer's behavior, but also sometimes because of things that are beyond our control, like market disruptors, like you mentioned, COVID. So specifically at the time of COVID, we were a 8 months old company, only 2 people. It was really just Benoit and I. So that was a kind of luck, like a lucky element in the whole situation, because the structure was pretty light and that put us less stress, you know, on us, and we could also be more flexible and faster to pivot. I think what we were quite good at in that specific moment was we had a good intuition. So to give you a bit of an idea what we were doing at the time, we started off with 5 products, and our idea was we are gonna sell them mostly B2B. So we contacted shops and, you know, smaller kind of retail places offering our products. But we were quickly met with the reality that that alone was not enough, at least at the scale we were. And really, after 3-4 months after the launch, we were actually contacted directly from some organization in Brussels asking, oh, we see that you make vegan products, like, would you be able to cater for us for like lunch? So like a business lunch or, you know, a business reception. And that worked very well. So we were incorporating our products in ready meals, and we were then delivering those meals to the offices here in Brussels. And why am I talking about this, even if it's pre-COVID, is that when COVID struck, we realized, okay, why is it that people like our catering offer? It's because they don't have to, you know, break their head on how they have to cook these meals or prepare these plant-based meats, because it's already made. They just have to enjoy the meal. And so really 3 days after we got in lockdown, I had this idea and I thought, okay, if that works, let's try to bring the catering to the people at home. And it's quite funny to say now, but I remember we had like 1,000 followers on Facebook. That was all the community we had. And we just boosted a post saying, hello, because of the situation, we are starting to offer like weekly meals. We call them, like twice a week. We are going to deliver them directly to your door. And that revealed itself to be a winning strategy. We got really a lot of like a very positive response straight away, and we continue on that. Of course, after COVID, we had again to adjust, and we came back also partially to what we were doing before. So all this, to sum it up, I would say it's testing and diversifying, like not being obsessed on one idea. It's either that or nothing. Of course, it's much easier, as I said, when your structure is lighter, but it's something that we still implement now, even with a team of 6 people. We got a huge facility just this year. It was an old fish factory, which we are converting into our production facility. So we have a lot of cost, lots of investment involved, but we are always testing both in terms of distribution channels and in terms of products.
Yes, thanks.
I don't want to go too long.
No worries. Thanks so much for your insight, and great that you were able to find ways to survive the COVID times also. And yeah, thanks for the insightful discussion. And next we will move to Will. So you mentioned briefly in your introduction about your fermentation technology. So I think everybody here who is listening to this panel discussion is interested that what stage are you with the development of your fermentation technology, and how do you see the future of precision fermentation in the global market? What has already been achieved and what will happen in the coming years? This is, I think, what interests everybody here, because this is a hot topic, as you know well from your research and work, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think fermentation and precision fermentation, there is a great future for that, but it will take time. And I think what we are focusing on is cheese. And if you look at cheese, that's a big unmet need for vegans, for people who are looking for animal-free products, animal-free cheese. And if you look at cheese, there is a very striking example where fermentation is already being used for a long time, and that is the rennet, the chymosin. And nowadays, already 90% of the cheeses that are sold worldwide make use of microbial rennet. So not anymore the rennet that is derived from calves. And calves that have to be killed. So microbial production. And what we are doing now is to make because if you look at rennet, that's only a very small part of the cheese. It's an enzyme used for clotting of the cheese, curd formation. We are focusing on casein, the major protein part of cheese. And you cannot use and find in nature a similar protein that can replace casein in cheese. Casein gives the taste, the texture, the mouthfeel. So if you want to replace that in an animal-free way, in a more sustainable way, fermentation is the way to go. But saying that, we are still at the research and development stage. And that holds true also for other companies. We are not the only one focusing on it. It takes time. And at this point of time, we are producing it on a large kilogram scale. We are producing it on fermentations on a few cubic meter scale. But of course, you have to go to larger scale. And ultimately, looking at the scale, how these products are produced nowadays at the traditional casein, you have to go to very large installations, and that will still take time. But I think, yeah, we are seeing progress. I think it was also mentioned, if you look at impostable foods, the lac hemoglobin that is being made also by precision fermentation. So we will see much more of that in the future.
Thank you so much. And I think for many people, cheese is something that they are still missing. The taste, but of course, there are good vegan cheese alternatives out there already, but I think
but
there is still room.
Using our microbial casein, we have been able to make already cheese. If you look at our feta cheese or brie cheese, or that is really good. But of course, it is small scale, and especially in Europe, we need a regulatory approval, or we need regulatory approval everywhere but in Europe it's more challenging than the US. And our target is to bring to have our first product on the market somewhere next year, but then in the US. In Europe, it will take longer.
Okay, and yeah, thanks for clarification. And I think, yeah, there is also incentives for the meat and dairy lobby to push back against not allowing vegan products to enter the market. So good that you are able to test your products in the US, and good luck with launching it in the US. And I'm sure, hopefully, and people living in the US will have the chance to taste your products. But next, we are moving to the Nordics to discuss with Heidi, as you've been building a vegan community for years, and you organized a vegan festival and come into contact with many people who visit the festival for many different reasons. How has this changed throughout the festival's history? And what did it look like in the very beginning when you started the vegan festival? And who was coming then there? And what does it look like now? And what are the motivations as you see and talk with many people converting to the vegan diet and vegan lifestyle? And like you have the cultural aspect of veganism. So how do you see it, that it will develop, and how are things in Oslo and in Norway from your perspective?
Yeah, Oslo and Norway especially is always a lot far behind other European countries, even Sweden, which is just next to us. So we're kind of we're many years behind. But like Anne said, that we're standing on each other's shoulders. The reason why we decided to start Oslo Vegetarfestival was because we went to Bristol VegFest and thought that was an amazing place where you could eat everything, and there were people wearing animal-friendly clothes, and so we were like, we need this kind of place in Oslo. And as you probably all of you know, if you want something, you can't just sit around and wait for someone else to start it, because no one's going to. Even though if you're making cheese or you're making it, having an animal sanctuary or whatever you do. So we decided that we had to start it ourselves. So the first year was in 2010. Facebook wasn't at that time what it was like now. So we had no idea how many people would come. We didn't have any pre-sale tickets or anything. We were hoping for 500 people, which sounds very little, but Oslo only has like 500,000, 600,000 people living here. So it's not that big city. And we thought, yeah, it's going to be 250 people who show up at least. And when the day was over, it was just one day, 1,100 people had come by, and like all the stores sold out in matters of just some few hours. All the cooking classes were just packed. So we realized that this is something that people want. So after that, we moved to a new location several times. The festival has just been growing and growing and growing. And just before the pandemic, we moved the whole festival outdoor to this amazing park in the middle of the center of Oslo. Where we have about 80, 90 stalls, maybe like a lot of cooking classes, talks, and a lot of other exciting things. We even have some fun things like speed friending and speed dating, and yeah, so some fun and some serious issues. So in the beginning, I think it was mostly vegetarians and vegan who came, and then as more and more people want to eat more plant-based food for their animals or their own health or the environment, it's been more people who are interested in as well. So we try to get the people who are not vegan and vegetarian yet to come to the festival so that they can see how much amazing food the plant-based world has to offer. And I'm really looking forward to some years from now when you can have your cheese stall at Oslo Vegetarfestival. That will be amazing. So
yes,
yeah. I
Thanks
think
so
I'm
much.
using my time. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I really love the attitude, and I think it's common for all speakers here that if something doesn't exist, you have to go and make it. And yeah, of course, I think that's the kind of what we can do for the animals. We can do so much because we have a voice, and we can innovate, and we can do so much. And I think being in the vegan space means that there is so much room for improvement and room to take from the animal agriculture, the space that now is being used to exploit animals. We have to conquer that with the vegan products and vegan lifestyle. So great to hear that you've been able to achieve great success in Norway and in Oslo, and I hope you will catch up with the rest of the Scandinavian world with veganism becoming more popular in the region. And yeah, next we will still have a question to Andrew. And there has been like many controversies surrounding vegan food for companion animals. And as a scientist and expert, how do you respond to these controversies, and which ones do you encounter most frequently? And what is like your take that how much is it being run by the pet food industry that is animal based, as we can see similar pushback from meat lobby against vegan products, like a lot of disinformation about veganism not being healthy even for humans. So how much is there disinformation out there from powerful players in the pet industry that don't want to see a vegan pet food booming?
It's actually really easy to address this because there just doesn't seem to be any good evidence on the other side of this argument. And a lot of the controversy comes from sheer lack of information. People commonly assume that those feeding vegan diets to pets are going home and making their own diets and trying to feed them to dogs and cats. Unfortunately, there's a long history of those being made and those being nutritionally unsound. And so it's understandable that organisations such as veterinary associations and many pet owners have been sceptical about those kinds of diets. However, that doesn't reflect the reality today. In recent years, there's been a host of new startup companies working with veterinary nutritional specialists and other nutritional experts to produce vegan pet foods, which are fully supplemented with all the necessary nutrients to ensure that they are nutritionally sound. And most people feeding vegan diets to their cats and dogs today are actually feeding these commercial diets, which are formulated to be nutritionally sound. So it's usually just a matter of pointing out that nutrients and ingredients are not the same thing. Dogs and cats and all species have requirements for certain sets of nutrients, not for any particular ingredient, not meat or any other ingredient. And when you remind people of that, and that it's possible to produce diets which are based on meat, which are nutritionally unsound, or which exclude meat, which are nutritionally sound, what matters is the nutrients that are in those diets. When you remind people of that basic common sense set of facts, then everyone immediately gets it. The penny drops and people realize that, there shouldn't really be any theoretical problem with producing these diets. Concerning the evidence, we now have, just since 2021, in the last 3 years, there have been suddenly a host of research studies done in this field by myself and other colleagues around the world doing research in this area. We've now got 11 studies looking at health outcomes in dogs maintained on vegan or vegetarian diets, which show equivalent or superior health outcomes for those animals. The most recent was published by my research group just a couple of weeks ago, actually, showing significantly improved health outcomes across all of the general health indicators and some specific health disorders as well when dogs were fed vegan diets, which kind of makes sense. If you formulate a diet to include all necessary nutrients, but without some of the dietary hazards you would find in meat-based commercial pet foods. With cats, there are 3 studies looking at health outcomes for cats maintained on vegan diets, and all 3 of those show equivalent or superior health outcomes for the cats. So the controversies really concern a lack of understanding about what vegan diets are. They are diets which are formulated by commercial companies today, most of the time. That they're being fed. They're mostly coming from commercial companies which are formulating them to be nutritionally sound. And about the evidence showing good health outcomes, good environmental sustainability outcomes, and other areas associated with vegan diets. And it's simply a matter of presenting that evidence. And when you do that, I haven't yet had any serious opposition. And indeed, the contrary, the British Veterinary Association now supports such diets and so on.
Thanks so much for the thorough going through all the evidence based on cats and dog food, and great to hear that this is backed up by science, which is of course really important, and keep up the great work with the pushing the message out there. And I think you are right on that as we still have many people in our society thinking that you cannot sustain with a healthy vegan diet in the human context. I'm sure there is a lot of stereotypes and not enough knowledge what comes to the vegan pet food market. So yeah, with that you are there. And yeah, the next question is for Heidi and Will. And now you can kind of paint a visionary picture of the future, because we are now talking about the AI revolution. And yeah, I would love to hear that. How do you think about the AI revolution in your industry, in the food industry, and in the more event industry? And what opportunities and threats do you see in the development of these new technologies? And especially, what does it play in the precision fermentation technology, the AI side of things? And what difference can this make when we enhance and use the AI? And how could it maybe boost or have an impact on the vegan revolution?
Yeah, maybe when we look at precision fermentation, and to be honest, I'm not an expert in artificial intelligence, but we are using bioinformatics already a long time to build organisms, to optimize organisms for the production of certain components. And a lot of data have been generated. And I think if you look at artificial intelligence, then what you should have is lots of data that you can use to speed up certain processes. But I think especially when you also look at biotechnology, we are still lacking a lot of data, especially when you are focusing on a very specific product. So I think there it will still, as mentioned, bioinformatics, etc. We are using that, but real artificial intelligence, I think that will take still some time. Yeah. Maybe I can leave it there. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thanks so much for your. What about you, Heidi?
Yeah, I think as a festival, organizing festivals, AI is going to make it a lot easier to do the work that we do a lot faster, which is of course going to help, because that means that we can have one person using AI tools to write articles, write text, make social media posts, all these kind of things a lot quicker than before. But what I'm really, really interested in AI that I think actually can revolutionize the vegan world is that AI, what I'm really excited about is how AI will be used to understand how animals communicate with each other. Like now they have used AI technology and to see how pigs communicate, and they've kind of found that they have different sounds that mean different things, and that if they're captured inside, that then they mean like they are unhappy a certain amount of the time. And I really think, because I mean, in Norway, the people have become vegan, of course, a lot for environmental reasons lately. But I think if we're going to have people become vegan and stick vegan, I think it's really important that we do it for the animals, because when it comes to environmental questions, it can be like, oh yeah, I want to reduce. And you think, okay, I'm just going to eat less meat. But when it comes to caring for animal, like every single meal that you eat that contains animals will will make you think, no, I don't want to do this. So that's what I'm most excited about, like how much AI can teach us about animals and the way they communicate with each other, and hopefully people will understand much more that they're sentient beings than what people realize today.
Yes, thanks so much for your thoughts on that. And I think that could be a pivotal thing in changing our relationship with our non-human companion animals and animals in general living now in the factory farms. That if we really understood that they are also living sentient creatures and similar to us, I think that could really have a big impact on how we treat them and hopefully meaning. And finally, let's move to the last question before the Q&A. So now you can already leave some questions for the Q&A that we can then answer. But yeah, and this question is for you, as you have had a long history with veganism. So where will you think that the vegan market will be in 20 years?
The vegan market is going to grow exponentially. I certainly hope so. I hope that veganism, the vegan products become the majority of what's available in the food stores. It's going to take a partnership between supply and demand. So at American Vegan Society, when we talk with vegan companies, we thank them for supplying the products that they're doing today. We've been encouraging the demand side of it since 1960. So we need to have the nonprofits, NGOs working, educating the people, and we need to have the goods produced by the for-profit sector, the businesses. Together, we'll have success for the animals. And it's going to take good respect and communication throughout the entire vegan movement to accomplish this.
Yes, that is really well put, like that we need everything like on board. And now you can put all the questions that you want to ask from us panelists here. And I think we have our first question. So, or this was like a more side note that Lori said that she has 3 rescue dogs and they've been vegan for many years, and they only got healthier with the vegan diet. So yeah, that was a good note. And we have a Q&A question here. I will read it out from Amanda. So thank you, Andrew, for all your hard work in this field. I completely agree. Oh yeah, okay, maybe you were about to answer it, but okay, let's see. Okay, you do you want to answer the question?
Sure. This is a common question.
So you can.
There's a certain very common set of questions about vegan pet food, and this is one of them. So I'm developing a growing frequently asked questions page on my website, which is sustainablepetfood.info. So the one about how to ensure that products are nutritionally complete. Firstly, people should purchase their vegan pet food diets from reputable companies that hopefully are working with nutritional experts to formulate their diets. They should check the labeling to ensure the product is has got nutritionally complete written on it somewhere, and not simply intended as a treat or a snack, but is a complete diet for a cat or a dog. The company ought to be able to provide some kind of information about steps taken to ensure nutritional soundness and good quality, such as working with nutritionists, formulating diets to meet nutritional guidelines produced by US or European authorities, perhaps even independent laboratory analysis of their foods. That would be the gold standard, but it's very expensive, so it's rarely done. If a company can't provide any information, won't answer questions, that should be seen as a red flag, and you should go somewhere else. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, thanks so much for your answer for the questions. And I think especially many of the questions in the Q&A are related to the pet food. But yeah, maybe we could discuss, as there are many people working in the for-profit side in this panel discussion. So what do you see as the biggest obstacles, or do you see the playing field even? Or one of the biggest findings in our nonfiction book that was published in August here in Finland and is now selling well, our first book. It's called The Beloved Animals We Eat. And in this book, we found out that the margins for vegan products in the market are higher compared to the animal-based versions. So this was one example of the retailers putting a higher price to vegan products. So do you see some large obstacles like for vegan food going like really mainstream because of these kind of institutional problems that either are in the supermarkets or from the governmental side? What are the biggest ones and biggest challenges for you that you face in the environment? All of you that are working in the business sector can give a short thoughts on your side. Maybe Federica can start.
Yeah, so it's true that right now, when I look at the future, I think one of the biggest challenges is indeed the price. So it's true that there are more and more people like non-vegans and non-vegetarians. So, you know, the so-called flexitarians or people that are showing interest to plant-based products. I can talk about food, but they're still a bit, you know, skeptical about the price difference. And, you know, coming back to the previous questions about AI, I think that will be one of the biggest limit in the short term of AI, is that until when it becomes really mainstream and affordable, I think the price, the cost of AI will be really reflected on the final products. When it comes to, well, I can talk for my business and our products. We try to keep it very competitive compared to animal-based products. So I do not think that's necessarily a limit. Of course, I mean, then we can start a whole different talk about the fact that meat is an industry that is heavily subsidized. So often when you see meat in the supermarket, you're not really paying for the real price of that meat, which is quite unfair, you know, towards plant-based products. But well, of course, it is a gap that needs to be filled, either by pricing meat, the real cost of meat, you know, or maybe the two things at the same time. So trying to, of course, price your plant-based products like fairly and trying to go as low as possible to make it appealable to the big crowd, to the big market. And at the same time, I think pricing meat like its real cost, which is not what we see in the shelves of supermarkets.
Yes, well put. And what about Will? What are the biggest obstacles when you look at the scene? And then we can go to Heidi.
Yeah. I think when you look at precision fermentation, it will take time to bring it to scale. But also going back to what was mentioned before, I think real pricing and take a look at the subsidies that go into animal-based products. Take a look at all the environmental issues we have. And I'm living in the Netherlands, and nowadays there is a big discussion already quite some time on nitrogen emissions and you name it. That all of that is not taken into account in the pricing. There is no real pricing. And I think in the future we will see more of that. On the other hand, especially looking at precision fermentation, I think we have to go to scale. It will take some time, but we will be there as well. Yeah, the products are good.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. So what about Heidi? How do you see this?
No, yeah,
Like biggest challenges and obstacles?
I definitely think that the price is the problem. And in Norway as well, not only do they subsidize the meat industry, but also the supermarkets, they sell meat with the loss to lure the customers into the supermarkets and to buy other things that they earn money. So there's no way. It's so difficult to compete against the meat products when it comes to price. It's probably impossible. The only thing I can see is trying to get more people to eat more beans and lentils, because that is cheaper. But I can't see any way that plant-based meat substitutes can compete.
Yes. So yeah, I think when we look at across and in our book, we also bring the fact that people make these consumer choices mostly by the price. So yeah, if the price doesn't come down, it's really hard to see. And of course, the meat subsidies that make it so cheap to produce meat, if they don't come down, I think it's a tricky situation. Yeah. So I think we are soon to stop. So maybe 30-second pitch, Andrew, and then we say goodbyes.
Okay, I would
So
just
really fast answer.
within the world of
Yes.
pet food, we know that price is not one of the 5 things that the top 5 concerns that consumers say that they have, but it is still an important issue. And we've just done the studies quantifying the reductions in needing to use medication, needing to see veterinarians, reduction in rates of illness for dogs and cats maintained on vegan diets. We've now got the numbers, and they range from about 4 to 54%. Treatment for disease, medication, veterinary visits, treatment for disease costs more than food. So there's actually another angle to this. Feeding vegan diets can result in cost savings in other ways, and we just need to make consumers aware of this.
Thanks so much. And I thank from my behalf for being able to host this amazing panel discussion in the European Vegan Summit. And I will give the floor to Morgan. Thanks for having us here.
Benjamin, thank you so much for a great session, and thank you so much to all the speakers, experts who are present with us today during this session and throughout the European Vegan Summit 2024. Unfortunately, this is the last session of this year's edition of the European Vegan Summit, but we are already getting ready for the next edition. Thank you so much for your contribution, for your engagement, and we are looking forward to have you next year in 2025. Thank you so much on behalf of Green Ref Institute, of the whole team from Green Ref Institute, and everyone who was involved in the event itself. Go vegan, stay vegan, and see you next year.